So when you take a look, this is the font itself with a couple initials that have the look to it, and depending on how far you take it, just making a copy off to the side before transforming this type into outlines. And creating the outlines takes this piece. This is still a grouped element, so just kind of giving it this color here, for example. If you use the direct selection tool, you can take this apart, but sometimes it's easier to select it and ungroup it so that you can select these individually. And basically, when you take a look at this, it's clipping off most of these. So when you look at the font itself, it's just taking a rectangular tool and placing it right above this section, clipping it off. I'll give that a different color. And you could use the Pathfinder, you could use the Shape Builder, so you can do it two ways. Here's the Pathfinder, two of them selected, and if you remember the Pathfinder, you can just pop that off, and that eliminates that shape behind it. This is also present. It's still one piece grouped together, so the direct selection tool will allow you to take that and just remove it from there. Now, again, it may not be the exact section on this, okay, but you can see where you can take the direct selection tool, for example, and grab the end points of this and use the arrow key to extend it a little bit. You can take a look at these two paths points right here, select those and just bump those over to make it just a little more narrow. Do the same with these two. And so it gets a little bit more of that feeling of that tighter edge there. Same with this. If this has to be a little bit more narrow there, you can always drop that down. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of flexibility to play around with, and then here's the R itself. Now keep in mind this is a compound path already, so you have the hole cut out of there. So when you take the rectangle tool across it, I'll give it just a little bit of airspace so you can see it, and shift key these two together, and that'll give you that part taken out. And again, using the piece because it is connected there, and that gives you this initial selection. So when you back up from it, it's pretty close. It's not the exact duplicate copy of it, but it gives you that feel to it. This is still two pieces grouped together, so you can just move those across, placing that into that section, and that gives you that at least that illusion to it. Again, trying to match it or group it together first. If you set a copy up to the top of this and just extended it down, trying to fit that, you can see it's somewhat close, just trying to get you the concept, not necessarily has to be exact on this one, but that's where it would be. And if this is grouped together, double clicking it will automatically put you in a isolation group so you can take a look at it. And then from here, trying to take this section and say, how could you do something with this in Photoshop? Maybe it does have an outside or just the lettering itself. If I copy it and go into Photoshop, I already have a page open to paste it. If I go to New, just to refresh a little bit, if I click on Create, the first one is the clipboard, and it tells me that the pixels are almost a square at 72 pixels per inch, PPI. If I click on that, or if I decide to raise the resolution to 300 to keep it in to the printing mode, and then also RGB for the color to create that. So that's the image that would come from there. And just Command plus, and then now when I paste this in there as pixels, you'll see it goes right to the edge. And now I just want to Option and reduce it down a little bit. Okay, but there you can see it's a little bit of the pixelation. Double clicking on this part in order to do something with the bevel and emboss, or just a simple drop shadow, something like that. Now that's just for this layer. Okay, the overall image is just the background. It's transparent when it's taken off. But if I wanted to make something like a medallion or a symbol that has this rectangular shape, I'm just going to click a new layer on the top of it and hold down Command, Option, Shift, and the letter E. And what that does, it takes all the visible layers and creates them into one at the top. So when I take all of these out, you can see this layer has everything on that. And the reason is to then, now that I can double click this and give this entire image the idea of this piece, and I'll just put a bevel and emboss. I'll put a stroke on the inside of it just to see it. So the inside's pretty big, so I'll reduce that down a little bit. And I'll click on this just to change the color away from the dark. I have it set to black. But for example, if there was a blue or even trying to fit the color, I can still go out here. You notice the mouse icon changes to the eyedrop tool when you come out here to build that. So here's a little bit of a section to it. So it gives me that piece. And again, this image, let's see, I thought I had it at 300, but let's take a look. It is, but it's less than an inch large because I took it off of the clipboard. So if you were to try to send this to somebody and it's a quick file, it's a pretty small file. Down below in the lower left you can see it tells you how large this file is. On the left it tells you the size with all the layers with the bracket, and then to the right tells you what it would be if it was flattened down, which is a little bit smaller, about a third of it, because each layer takes up some of the space. And now if I wanted to make a copy of this or a picture, Command Shift 4 turns into the crosshair and or the registration symbol, and I can either go to the corner or maybe I want to have a little bit of a black border. So when you see that, spacebar still allows me to adjust it. Usually for a piece, sometimes the bottom has more space on it than the even on left, right, and top. So you can adjust it like that. And then when you click on this to the Finder, you take a look at the desktop, and the screenshot is right here. So you can see what it would be like if you sent this to somebody. This is the image that you would have. And for your purpose, to go ahead and change the title from screen, just highlighting it once will give you the idea. So I'm just going to put sample. So that's the idea of giving it a title to send onto it. The PNG file is a little more compressed than the JPEG, and that'll give you that to work from. Okay. So just coming back to this. So from Illustrator, Command Tab, you're in Photoshop creating that image and then making a screenshot.